I flew all the way across the world to Japan to buy this RC car. This is an R34 Nissan Skyline GTR. I have painted it nearly identical to the model used in Too Fast, Too Furious by Paul Walker. Now, I'm going to show you how I built it and take it for a drive.
My journey for this project started in Ginza, Tokyo.
The pilgrimage to Tamiya HQ. Cool.
I made my way to the Tamiya PLA Model Factory, Tokyo, which is their flagship store. Unfortunately, my footage inside the building got deleted. Once I saw the R34 Skyline GTR on the shelf, I had to buy it.
This is awesome.
I just managed to fit the full box in my luggage for my flight home to Toronto. Nissan GTR. I have taken the lid off this once. Tamiya sells these 1/10 scale RC car kits as assemble and paint yourself. Ooh. I'm not going to go into every detail of building the vehicle as the instructions are already pretty good. Here I'm showing you the assembly of the drive shaft, differential, and bearings assembled into the chassis. Next, I assembled the brushed DC motor with the motor mount, heatsink, and aluminum pinion gear. I mounted the motor gear in the chassis and connected the motor gear to the drive shaft gear. Finally, I assembled the motor cover over the gears. Next, I added the rear suspension. Unfortunately, I noticed the suspension wasn't moving very smoothly.
Is there a reason this is so, rigid? This seems like a crappy design. Which, I'll be honest, does make me think, definitely my fault. I think they'll have the wrong bearing.
Yeah, so I put the larger bearing in the suspension and it was getting stuck. Once I switched to the smaller size, things worked perfectly.
There we go. Wrong bearing.
I was a little upset with myself as this took me about an hour to fix. Next, I filled the oil-filled suspension, which made a bit of a mess. Be careful when you assemble these not to spray the oil out like I did. You can see here I have the suspension assembled with the oil for damping. Next, I assembled the steering.
Whee!
In this kit, you have to buy a servo separately, so I bought this model off AliExpress. I tested it out with my transmitter before to make sure it worked. Another part you have to buy separately in this kit is the motor controller. I bought this part also on AliExpress, and this controller on AliExpress. I put all the pieces together and powered it on for the first time.
Okay, that's a good sign. Oh.
Make sure to mount both screws of the servo so it stays in place.
Jeez, do we have to glue these? Oh. That's pretty tight.
Tamiya advises supergluing the rubber to the rims, although these hard drift tires stick pretty well. The softer radials I have needed to be glued, however.
Oh my god. I got the mixed up. No!
I was set back another hour after realizing I mixed up the bearings between the drive shaft and the wheels.
Okay. Whew.
Once I swapped them out, the bearing actually fit properly in the axle. I put the wheels on and the foam bumper at the front of the car.
Starting to look like a car.
To make this car more realistic like the movie, I added LEDs to the headlights and taillights. For the taillights, I obviously used red, For the headlights, I used 2 white LEDs and 1 yellow. The last pieces of the car to put together were the spoiler and the mirrors. The body, spoiler, and mirrors now needed to be painted, following the design from Too Fast, Too Furious. It's very important to wash the body with soap and water before painting to allow the paint to stick. Now for what was the longest part of this project, masking the paint for all the blue livery on the vehicle. I sped up the masking work for time's sake. For RC cars with polycarbonate, or Lexan bodies, the painting strategy is to paint the inside of the shell to protect the paint from chipping when you inevitably drive into something. The polycarbonate body also leaves a nice glossy coat when painted from the inside. Here you can see I've masked off the blue stripes at the front of the car. Unlike normal model painting, when you paint on the inside you have to paint the darkest colors first to put the light colors behind them, otherwise dark colors would bleed through to the other side. The time estimate I had to mask the body here was about 1 hour and 40 minutes, although in real time I think this took more like 4 hours. Finally, I finished masking the car. I tried to make it as perfect as possible comparing to the image of the car from the movie. The side stripes are shown here, and you can see the 2 front racing stripes are on the hood and the front bumper of the car. Here are the paints I used. For RC car shells, you need polycarbonate paints, which are fairly hard to find and usually more expensive. I used some old Pactra paints that my local hobby store had and bought the thinner for it as well. I also bought a couple of spray cans from Tamiya and On Point. These paints are very toxic, so make sure you wear a respirator and gloves and use a fume hood. I actually built this paint booth myself, and you can see it in the video I link below. I started with the blue metallic Pactra paint that I mixed 1-to-1 with my Pactra thinner. This is the paint I used for the stripes on the car and for the spoiler. Painting the body took a while since the metallic paint is pretty flaky and struggles to come out of the airbrush well. I also had to reload paint a lot. My paint booth was a bit overwhelmed with the amount and strength of the fumes as well, so even with the booth and a mask, I'd recommend painting outside. Although I'm very happy with the final product, make sure your masking tape is completely tightly sealed against the body, as paint can leak through like it did for me here. Taking the masking off now is self-explanatory, but it does take some time.
Oh, that looks pretty cool. It's a little hard to see in the camera.
My first impression was honestly surprised that the stripes looked as good as they did there. You can see there's some residue with the paint on the windows. I think what happened was I spilt the paint out of the cup onto the model, and it actually caused more of a permanent stain, which is unfortunate. You can also see there's a bit of paint between the stripe lines because the masking tape wasn't completely sealed. I cleaned that up later using a Q-tip and lacquer thinner, which helped a lot. Now it's time to paint the primary silver paint on the body. I'm masking off the windows to make sure they are clear. I also masked off the headlights and taillights for the LEDs. For safety, I did this part outside.
That's probably good.
At this point, I took the masking tape off the taillights to paint them over red. I used the red Pactra paint for this color. I painted the red on a light coat so that the light can pass through translucently for the taillights. I taped the inner circle of the taillights to make sure I get the iconic Skyline taillight look. Next, I glued in the headlight and taillight parts. Originally I used hot glue, but it flaked and broke, so I ended up using the E6000 super glue. Next, I needed to cut off the extra material off the body for the wheels and the bumpers and side of the car. Finally, I could take the masking off the windows. I plan to spray and tint the window sills and the windows themselves on the sides and backs at a later time. Here I'm drilling a hole and clipping in the side mirrors, which I painted off camera using the silver spray. Next, I added this blue LED strip to get the inside interior neon lighting and the underside neon lighting that follows what the car does in the movie. I broke my soldering iron out to solder all these strips together and wire them back to the electronic receiver. Next, I unmasked the spoiler, which I painted blue. I ended up painting the sides blue as well after realizing this is what the movie did. I painted the supports with black primer afterwards to also follow the movie.
Oh yeah, now we're cooking.
I went a little bit out of order here and went back and added the support posts for the body back to the car. I then drilled holes to make them fit, which I ended up drilling 2 more on the hood that I didn't need. Now you can watch me trim the supports and push in the clips for the rear supports. This whole time, I had the overspray mask on the outside of the car to prevent any debris or paint from spraying on the outside. Now we can take it off and see how much glossier it looks. To get all the cool decals and license plate used in the movie, I found the stickers online and printed them out on a clear vinyl sheet at Staples. I will link the sticker page I used in the description of the video. I glued the stickers on using E6000 super glue that I thinned with some lighter fluid, surprisingly. I started with the hood sticker, then the side bumper sticker, and then the front bumper stickers. I then did the rear bumper, which I did off screen, but you can see the result here. For the normal Nissan Skyline stickers, this came in the kit and I added those now. Finally, I bought these PWM LED switchers off AliExpress that allow you to toggle the lights on and off from your RC controller. I think the lights look really good. Comparing to the movie, here's the front bumper. And here's the driver's side racing stripes. And here's the front end of the car with the racing stripes, LEDs, and the custom decals. Here's the rear end with the LEDs, custom decals, spoiler, and license plate. And here's the passenger side racing stripes. This final view shows the blue neon LED in the rear window.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe to the channel and help me get this channel off the ground so I can keep making some awesome videos. I got some really cool ideas that you're not going to want to miss. See you in the next one.